Hello, this is Mike at GameFromScratch, and welcome to This Week in Game Development. This is week 33, a quick recap of the news and events of the world of game development for the week ending July the 4th. Speaking of which, to my American friends, happy Independence Day. To my fellow Canadians, happy belated Canada Day. To folks from the UK, my deepest condolences, and to everybody else, happy Monday. All right, without further ado, let's jump right in. Now, unlike the last couple of weeks, there's actually been a fair bit of news and event in this week's event. So let's jump in. Now, all of these links are going to be available in the comment down below in a single page. So if you're not keeping up with a particular story, don't worry. The link is available down below if you want to read more. To start the week off, we had the release of .NET Core. Now, .NET Core is a special version of the .NET platform. So basically, the various pieces that make C#, F#, VB.NET, etc. work. So you've got a .NET Runtime, a .NET Compiler, and the .NET Frameworks. All those things go together and are implemented in .NET Core. Now, this was being driven by the ASP.NET team. So this was the version of .NET that ASP.NET is being built on. But the entire idea behind it is to embrace cross-platform compatibility. And that's what we've done. Now, I've just did a video on using .NET Core with Visual Studio Code. So if you want to learn more, check my channel. There is a video on it, so you can actually learn a bit about how to use it. It's a nice and lightweight implementation of .NET. And the cool thing about .NET Core is it, out of the box, runs on Windows, Mac, and Linux. So if you're looking at doing C# development in a portable way, .NET Core is your guy. Now, the thing is, there's some missing links. There's no... at least there's no major .NET UI library, for example, so there's no WinForms or WPF, etc. So in time, those things are coming, I hope. But .NET Core 1.0 is out there, and I recommend you check it out. It's entirely hosted on GitHub. It is an open source effort. It's a cool project, actually, and I'm a big fan of C#. So another release this week was MARMALADE. Now, MARMALADE is a C++ and also Lua, since they released MARMALADE Quick, powered mobile gaming system. It's been around forever, to be honest. It's been used to create a number of commercial mobile games, such as Call of Duty Black Ops Zombies or Gods of Olympus were created in Marmalade. Now, the big thing about this newest release, this 8.4 release, is that it brought full C++ 11 support. It's been in the development for a long time. It is there now. At the same time, they deprecated a couple of platforms, such as the LG Smart TV platform, the Blackberries, poor Blackberry, and MIPS platform, which is an old chipset that powered very early versions of Android. So I wouldn't really worry about that one particularly. A couple other features, as you can see here, but the biggest one by far and away was the release of C# 11 support. Another engine release this week was Unreal Engine 4.12.4. HOTFIX release, 30 plus fixes, but again, it's entirely fixes. Nothing extremely exciting, but if you're, I suppose, an Unreal Engine developer, there's potentially there for you. Another engine release this week was the Defold engine. Now, the Defold game engine was made available by King. Yes, that King. It's a Lua-powered, very cool game engine. I'm actually doing a tutorial series on it as we speak, very slowly, but I am working on a tutorial series that covers Defold. It is a great, great engine. I also did a video that did a look at it, so if you're interested in learning more about the Defold engine, I've definitely got you covered there. Just go to this post, go to the very bottom. Ooh, as we can see from the rating, someone's not a big fan of either Defold or King. But the Defold engine is, it's cool actually, so to give it a shot, it is definitely a capable engine, Lua powered. It's completely everything you need to create 2D games for iOS, Android, etc. using Lua. Another game engine release this week was the Corona SDK. I don't have a version number on it, but it is a major release. What they've brought here, now the Corona SDK is another Lua-powered game engine. It's one of the originals, actually. Been around forever. It is now available for free. I don't think it's open source, however. But the major thing with this new release is support for high DPI displays on both Windows and Mac, and spine animation support. Now, I checked out Spine a couple of weeks back, so if there's a video about it if you want, but Spine is a 2D IK-based animation system. It's quite cool, actually. So they just added ability to do spine animations directly in Corona, and as you can see, there's several other changes, improvements, and fixes in this release as well. So it's a pretty major release, but those were the two key or anchor features of there. Another game engine release we saw this week was Lumberyard 1.3. Now, we had a preview of this a couple of weeks ago, so the contents aren't shocking, but the big thing in this particular release is beta support for VR. Out of the box, it's shipping with HTC Vive and Oculus Rift support. but it's implemented in such a way that you should be able to support any device. You basically have to implement their interface, and it will now work with their engine. So they've created a plugin-ish interface for VR devices, and did the plugins for you for the Vive and the Rift out of the box. And then on top of that, there's a whole lot of changes in here, but primarily we're dealing with graphical changes such as improved volumetric fog, motion blur, depth of field, emittance, etc. They do say that there's over 130 features, improvements, and fixes in this release, including HDR support, and then of course VR support being the biggie. Another much more minor release this week was Unity released patch 5.3.5 P6. Big thing in this one is some audio improvement. There's an improvement to the functionality of their audio code. I'll get to that in a second. And they bumped up to the Oculus 1.5 SDK for their support. They also updated so the Xcode 8 can be used for doing iOS 8 builds. A number of features were added in the audio side of things, so virtualization of audio effects, ability to transition audio mixer snapshots by scaled and unscaled time. Audio clip waveform preview now displays the actual format used for compression. Audio clips with a streaming load type are no longer preloaded. Fixed audio clip waveform preview rendering sync issues after import. Oops, there goes my alarm, etc. So there was a number of small improvements to the audio system. Another game engine released this week, and coincidentally enough, another Lua-powered game engine release, and this one has also been around for quite a while, is Gideros 2016.6 was released. Now, Gideros, like I said earlier, is a Lua-powered cross-platform game engine. It was open-sourced about a year and a half ago, possibly a little bit longer, possibly a little bit shorter. This release is bringing us a couple new things. New threading system allows launching tasks in the background, which I guess is cool. New pixel sprite, simple and fast rectangle colored sprite. Particle sprites allow you to draw several identical dots or bitmaps with varying color and orientation. Offline docs, new examples, Lua 5.1 universal bytecode, and UTF-8 string libraries are the new features, plus several improvements. Now, this has gone completely open source. They're entirely donation driven now, so if you are checking out Gideros, do consider backing them or supporting them. Another game engine released this week was NEOAXIS 3.5 was released. I don't actually know a whole lot about this engine. It is .NET powered. It's a full 3D engine with an editor. This release, the major features was the editor got a facelift. There's now also a tool for importing 3D models directly from file. Some example updates, some bug fixes, streaming of terrain. About the major releases of this guy. Again, it's not an engine I know a whole lot about, but that is the editor in action. And like I said, they did just give it a facelift. And one final game engine update is Xenko Engine 1.7 was released. Now, Xenko used to be called the Paradox 3D Engine, and I checked it out in the closer look series, so if you want to learn more about it, check it out here. I've also got a video of showing it in action. It's C# powered. You can see there's a full editing environment for creating and composing your games. Now, you don't have to use it. It takes the traditional entity component system approach that seems to be the norm these days. Now, new things of this feature release is practical clustered shading, which basically a forward plus renderer was added. So you can see the video of it in effect right there. So basically they've got a new renderer. They rewrote their lighting code for better performance. Vulkan support has been added. Now, Vulkan is the next version of OpenGL. It works on a much lower level. Think of it more like Risk versus, actually that's a terrible comparison. Basically they broke it down so that the new GPUs work a lot more like GPUs work, as opposed to using the kind of somewhat outdated approach we've been using, because we're moving towards simple but massively parallel tasks. And that's what OpenGL Chronos is basically doing, and also DirectX 12. So they've moved to experimental support for Vulkan at the Linux and Windows end. Don't expect a whole lot from that. Generally what we're seeing right away is that Vulkan implementations are at best the same speed, and at the very, very, very best 20% improvement in speed, and in most cases actually slightly slower, at least to start. So this is more of a future-proofing thing than a this is great now kind of thing. They've also simplified asset creation. You can now import assets directly from file, and you can also drag and drop scripts and models assets directly to the properties panel over here, which is actually a bit of a time saver actually if you've used the engine. They rewrote the audio engine plus a number of bugs and fixes, so it's actually a pretty substantial substantial improvement for the Xenko or Paradox 3D engine. Definitely something I do recommend you check out, especially if you're working in C# and Unity just isn't doing it for you. Xenko might be the right fix or right fit for you. And that is it. That is this week in game development. Thankfully, it's not just 1 or 2 items. We've actually got a half dozen releases this week. Go back to your holidays. I hope you had a good time. See y'all later. Goodbye.